from Flat Top Mountain here in southern West Virginia. This is the Allegheny Front Almanac. I'm Doc, and this week, as the ground softens beneath our boots, we slow down to notice what the land is doing, what the sky is stirring, and what nature is asking of us. This is your Almanac for the week of January 4th through the 10th. This was a muddy week on the mountain. There's no deep freeze, no crunch underfoot, just that soft, clinging ground that slows you down and just makes a horrible mess. It was warm enough to loosen the earth, wet enough to make you have to watch every step. I spent that time outside this week because the weather allowed. I cleaned up around the place, took stock of what winter had quietly shifted, and I pruned a few trees that really needed that extra attention. You know, the kind you do because you know neglect will show up later if you ignore it now. There's something grounding about that work. And the trees, they seem to feel a little bit more relaxed after a good cut. Inside, the seasonally quietly shift gears. I brought up the growing tables. Dad and I started laying out plans for this year's seedlings. You know, the first round, the ones that we start indoor, the early spring plants. The ones may need a little longer season, maybe a little bit more patience, just a bit more foresight. Nothing's planted yet, just intentions, just space making. Seed planting is a hopeful act. Even when you're careful not to rush, you looked at what worked last year, what struggled, and what you're curious enough to try again anyway. You make room not for just success, but for learning. I also started a new batch of kombucha. It's a small ritual, but one that helped me anchor this week. You know, there's a comfort in tending to something that doesn't demand urgency. You feed it, you keep it warm, you let it do its work over time, and it rewards you in the end. Physically, I've been feeling the weight of things. The stress of life. It's really just been carrying on me. And instead of pushing through like I usually do, I've been sleeping a bit more than usual, and I've been letting myself. I think I need it. I need to feel that rest again. Not just being awake, but feeling rested. You know, and there is a difference. And the land, it seems to agree with my approach right now. Nothing is forcing growth. Nothing's pretending it's time to sprint. Just quietly resting. Sometimes the most productive thing that you can do isn't pushing harder. It is stop pushing long enough to hear what your body is saying. And the season is what it's been trying to tell you all along.
Lingering snow showers and gusty wind across the northern mountains will continue to gradually taper overnight, giving way to a dry start with a new work week amid building high pressure. Temperatures will moderate through Tuesday, with another cold front arriving midweek that can bring rain, then snow showers.
What the ridge will see this week. The mountain forecast for Flat Top for January 11th through the 17th. So on Sunday, January 11th, as winter settles back in after that nice warm stretch. It's going to have cooler temperatures near the low 30s. The chance of morning snow showers, especially in the hollers and the shady spots. Monday, January 12th. Another relatively cold day. We may see highs up to 37, partly sunny, partly cloudy. A quiet day. Tuesday, January 13th. It's going to get a bit warmer. Highs may climb into the high 40s. We should see a mix of sun and clouds. It's kind of our midweek break from the cold patterns. Wednesday, January 14th, the clouds, they are increasing. We're going to start seeing a mix of rain and snow. It's going to move in the afternoon. And our high is probably going to be no more than in the high 40s. And there's going to be some breezy conditions. Thursdays, temperatures drop back down into the mid-20s. Snow showers around the morning. It's going to be that classic Appalachian winter weather. Cold air, clouds, and light snow. Friday, January 16th. That air, it stays chilly. High around 30, maybe 35 if we're lucky, with mostly cloudy skies. Another calm winter day. Saturday, January 17th. A few snow showers. In the morning, another mostly cloudy day, high in the mid-30s. Night may bring another round of snow. As a shift in the pattern this wind begins, we get the tastes of both sides of the Appalachian winter. Early on, the ridge tips back towards true winter with the cold air and the light snow. Mid-wet gives you a warm air reprise. It feels strangely mild for January. And then late week, the cold air returns. The chance of some passing snow showers. It won't bury you, but you may feel every flake. Above us, the sun has been busy. Earlier in the week, a fast-moving electric coronal mass ejection became visible. It wasn't Earth-directed. And if it had been, we'd be having a very different conversation right now. On January 8th, a filament erupted near active region 4334, producing a long-duration C5.6 flare, what's known as a Hyder flare. Not the usual sunspot explosion, but a release tied to its deeper magnetic structure. That event produced a CME heading mostly southeast at first. Didn't look like much for us, but space weather has a way of revealing itself, intentionally slow. By January 10th, tracking model shows the CME brush path Earth. Solar winds speeds jump from around 450 kilometers per second to nearly 600, with the interplanetary magnetic field sharply turning south. The result? A moderate G2 magnetic storm. And you could feel it. I noticed a lot of intense world events this week. You saw the anger, the agitation, people running hot. For me personally, I felt off, a bit tired. Space weather doesn't make the people angry, but it can tune that volume knob up on what's already there. And that energy, it's still lingering. It's feeling stretched, restless, or worn thin. Be gentle with yourself in the coming days and be patient with others. There is a bit of good news this week, too. My buddy Sean, he's doing a bit better. Still a long roll ahead, but it's steady. That's what matters. Also, Winter Place has been firing up their snowmakers, and you can hear them at night. That low, mechanical thunder echoing through the cold air. And down the road, I've been hearing some distance blasts from the work of a possible new gas station just a few miles away. Change, whether we ask for it or not, has its own sound. I want to talk this week about integration. We live in a time where everything feels polarized. Good versus evil. Right versus wrong. Us versus them. It's tempting to believe the problem is always somewhere else. But one of the hardest truths of human growth is this. Nothing can be healed until it is first accepted. Each of us carry a shadow, the part of ourselves we don't like, that we don't show, that we really don't want to admit that's there. And when we refuse to look at those parts, we tend to project them outward. We turn other people into villains so we don't have to sit with our own contradictions. Integration doesn't mean being perfect. It means being honest. An integrated person still feels anxiety. They still feel guilt. They still feel anger. But it's without shame for feeling them. They don't pretend to be pure. They don't demand purity of others either. You know, the land understands this. Winter isn't the enemy of summer. Night isn't the failure of day. Mud isn't a mistake. It's what happens when water and earth meet honestly. If you pull all the dark threads out of the tapestry, the bright ones will lose their meaning, and the whole thing unravels. So this week, instead of trying to fix yourself, try accepting yourself. Rest when your body asks. Notice your reaction without judging them. Let opposites exist without demanding resolution. That's not weakness. That's integration. This week reminds me that growth doesn't always look clean. Sometimes it looks muddy. Sometimes it looks tired. And sometimes it looks like slowing down enough to hear what is already there. The land isn't rushing. The sky, it isn't apologizing. And neither should we. Until next time, I'm Doc. And this is the Allegheny Front Almanac. Live slowly, love deeply, and fear nothing. Adios.